and welcome to this edition of Wake Up and Live with the Arts. I'm Sue Johnson, your host and your producer for this wonderful community service show where we are taping, live here at Caribou, the oldest ongoing African-American performing arts institution in the country. And as James McGilbray, another producer, was saying before camera was rolling, this is a vibrant place. You may hear folks in rehearsal from a distance away, but in the meantime, we're going to talk to our special guests, and we're going to start with Miss Jeanne Madison, an actor I met a few months ago, and I've come to appreciate how busy she is as an actor around town. So welcome, Jeanne. How are you today?
Thank you, Sue. I'm well, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm happy to have you.
Thank you.
Because I've seen how busy you are. And what is your most recent production that you've been doing around town?
Well, I just recently completed The Oldest Profession by Paula Vogel at Convergence Continuum.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very interesting play. It's set at the beginning of the Reagan era. There are 5 aging prostitutes who began at the turn of the 21st century. They've been together for over 50 years. The oldest profession, of course, being prostitution.
Of course.
But another way to look at it is the oldest profession of life's truths.
Mm-hmm.
Because each woman represents one of the things that makes life rich and robust. So we have one, Lillian, whose name means pure and
Yes.
beauty. She represents the arts. The second one is May. She represents protection. She actually fights with some of the young prostitutes and cuts one. And the third one is Ursula, which means the bear. She is very focused on money.
From the constellation, yeah.
Money and rates of return and this sort of thing. The fourth is Edna, whose name means pleasure, and she's all about pleasure in her work and pleasure in life. I play Vera. The name Vera means faith, and my character is all about faith and optimism, and she talks a lot about things that nurture. And so it's a very, very interesting, very moving and poignant play.
Right. Well, Paula Vogel is known for her plays, and the Convergence Continuum is known for its kind of avant-garde, if you will, productions. So that sounds exciting. Now, it just closed recently?
Yes, it did. Earlier this month.
Okay. And do you have a next project coming up at all?
I do. I'm very excited. I'm going to be at Oberlin for their summer repertory theater. I'm playing Rosemary Sidney in Paul Inge's production of Picnic. He actually wrote it.
Yes.
You may know him from plays like Barefoot in the Park, Bus Stop, which were favorites of mine. I used to watch the old movies going up.
And they were primarily in the 50s, I think, 50s and 60s.
When they were made.
When they were
saw
made,
them as old movies a few decades later.
Right.
And you usually had actresses like Marilyn Monroe, Rosalind Russell, who actually played the character I'm going to play, Ava Gardner. So they're very steamy, about people sort of decaying slightly at the edges. So
Yes.
I'm very excited about that. I'll be opposite Peter Lawson Jones,
Okay.
who a lot of people know and respect.
Is there anybody who doesn't know Peter Lawson Jones?
He has had a very vivid and long and distinguished career.
Okay. And when does this production open?
July 20th.
Okay, and runs?
Through August 4th.
And this is the Oberlin Theater?
Yes, it's repertory, so the productions will be various days and times during the week, and repertory is often structured as this is, so that you can come down, see a show in the afternoon, have dinner, and then see another show in the evening, and it's all free.
The entire play,
All of it.
attending the play is free?
Yes, all of them are free.
Oh, well, then you have to go check that out. Now, I'm not sure where in Oberlin this theater is, but certainly you can Google it and get the exact location and the contact information for the Oberlin Theater. Now, you turned out to be quite a heavy actor, and so how did you get involved in the business?
Well, interestingly enough, and I didn't find this out until I was an adult, my grandmother, my father's mother, and many people know my dad, Robert Madison, had a degree from Morris Brown College in Atlanta. Both my grandparents were college educated. My grandfather went to Howard. He was a civil engineer. He surveyed the Lee Harvard section of Cleveland. But his wife, my grandmother, had studied drama.
Okay.
And so when I found this out, I said, well, that makes sense. My dad has always loved performing arts, opera, theater. We were exposed to an awful lot as children, and I just always loved it. My mother brought me to Karamu House as a young child to become more poised. That was a very big focus of society as I was coming along, that young ladies should be poised and elegant and gracious and graceful. So we studied drama and dance and how to move. I remember walking with a book on my head. I wanted to be an actress. I studied theater at Case Western Reserve with Ken Albers, who's a well-known
that's Kathy's
actor.
husband.
Ex-husband.
Ex-husband. Yes. Okay.
He's since remarried. He's in Oregon at the Shakespeare Festival there in Eugene. But he was an excellent director. He put up Ceremonies and Dark Omen, and I was cast as the only female lead, Adele. But at the time, my father said acting was no life for a lady. And in those days, we listened to the father. But
and the mother and the great aunts, great uncles, the grandparents. Get a job. Don't be acting is not going to do it.
Well, I think what he was most concerned about were the Harvey Weinsteins of the world.
Okay.
And when you're competing to get a part, and there are not many parts to begin with because you're black, that was a very real threat. So I'm grateful that he forced that upon me, so to speak, or convinced me. I had a very brilliant career in corporate America in Chicago, New York, and D.C. My children are grown. All my bills are taken care of, so now I can do what I want to do, which is to act. So I started in 2009 and have been working on and off pretty much ever since.
Well, that sounds delightful. Now, for folks who are interested in contacting you, perhaps having you come in and audition, is there an email, a website, or phone number that you would want folks to contact you directly for opportunities?
Well, I usually get my audition notices off of Neopal.
Neopal, yes.
I am on Facebook, and they can feel free to inbox me. But most of the time, if someone's putting up a show, they know someone that knows me, and they can reach out to me.
Well, this has been exciting to finally meet you on this level, and certainly enjoyed chatting with you for a few minutes about your career. And as a closing point, since you have quite a body of work underneath you, so to speak, can you give, say, a little advice to an aspiring actor? What would you recommend to a rookie actor about pursuing a career in the arts? Some kind of tip or tidbit?
Well, that's a very good question. I think what I have found is there are a couple things that can improve your skills, I think. One is reading.
Of course.
Reading, and people today don't read like they used to, but reading and analyzing how this character develops for you, how this plot develops, why it engages you. The second thing I always say is observation. I played a homeless woman at the end of this play, The Oldest Profession. I start out very glamorous, I've got jewels and furs, and I end up as a homeless person and I have no lines. And when I come in, the audience just gasps, and people told me after it was so poignant and so moving. But over the years, I have observed homeless people, and I have come to know some of their stories. You know, one of them, the men that I saw, was a stockbroker. There was a woman that lived outside the deli where I used to shop in New York who had been a physicist. And then there was a man once who said, "You can't even look at me." So, you know, observe people and create stories in your own mind as to who they are and where they come from and why you think that. I also think research. Research is a very important part of being able to put a credible, compelling character on the stage, understanding their motivation, where they're coming from. Some people call it creating a backstory.
Yes.
But sometimes backstory can get in your way, particularly if you get into she wouldn't do this and she wouldn't do this. And then I guess the other thing I would say is script analysis, which is something you often have to take a class in. So
I was going to say
your
that you have to learn how to do that. Yeah, script analysis.
Yeah, if you've had good reading teachers and learned how to read complicated texts, you can see that in the text that you're reading. I recently took a master class at Cleveland Playhouse called The Actors Gym that was just outstanding.
A couple of folks have had that, yes.
Yeah, I highly recommend that. So I would say training, observation, research, and reading.
And on that note, We will once again thank Jeanne Madison for joining us, and you notice she mentioned her dad, Robert P. Madison, one of the most prominent African-American architects today, and we hope to have him as a guest in the near future. So we want you to stay tuned for that and learn some history from a man who's been there and done that. Thank you, Jeanne.
Thank you so
Loved
much for
having
having
you.
me. Thank you,
And
it's been a pleasure.
you have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Okay, I would shake hands, sort of. Okay, there you go. But really, I like to hug.
Oh,
Smooches.
thank you.
We'll be right back.